Coming up, every single person that is working on Hellscreen. I may or may not scream, and we will take a tour of the first 15 minutes of the Hellscreen demo. Hi, I'm Jamie Deegan. This is a little showcase of my game Hellscreen, selected for the London Games Festival 2022. Hellscreen is a retro first-person shooter with heavy Geiger influences. It's a throwback to sort of games like Doom and Quake and Duke Nukem. It's got a lot of influences from like Alien Trilogy. Like in a single sentence, it's Doom with a rearview mirror. At the top of the screen, there is like literally a rearview mirror that you'd get in like any kind of racing game, and it just came from this kind of thought process I had when I was at uni studying games about like how can I be better at first-person multiplayer shoot 'em ups? Because I always felt like if I was seen first by the other player, I'd be dead. And I thought, well, how can I solve that problem? Maybe if I saw them behind me first, maybe I could shoot them. And it was a joke. It was a joke kind of thought experiment, but it ended up being like, oh, I'll try that as I was prototyping something else when I started Hellscreen, put it in the mirror, and it was like, oh, actually, there's some kind of cool design things that I can do with this, like hidden walls or invisible enemies or, you know, like, say, shooting behind you and that kind of thing. Okay, so here we are in the sort of one of the first areas where there's a lot of combat. I deliberately kept it a arena shape and quite simple, just to sort of let the player sort of get acclimatized to combat and stuff. I wanted to get them into the action as quickly as possible, not including the tutorial really. So there's only a couple of enemies in this. I'm introducing the concept of health, which isn't a new thing, but it's good to throw in there. I'm showing how the rear view mirror can highlight sort of things to collect and important information. Spiders are a lot of fun. Well, they're spiders to everyone else, but to me they're called hellfish for some reason. That was just the name I landed on them, because even though they're not really fish-like, but c'est la vie. They're really interesting because they kind of skitter towards you and everything, and sort of shriek away and escape, and like they kind of retreat as well. This is a plasma thrower. I actually don't like the look of this, so that is probably going to change. I find that's been happening quite a lot recently as the game's gone on. They're just things that I want to kind of make look a little bit better. Here's kind of the sort of introduction of a cloaked enemy. You can barely see it in the main view, but actually the way to really see it is through the rear view mirror, and it's the only way to kill it as well. If you were to shoot it from the front view, it wouldn't actually do any damage, and there'll be a VFX to kind of showcase that. There's the rear view mirror again showing the soul cube. The soul cubes are the things you need to collect to open up other levels. So once you get a few of those, they're kind of like the Mario 64 stars in Mario 64, funny enough. Once you get those, you can eventually go to a map room, and from there you can select one of the kind of various levels which you've unlocked, which hopefully we should be jumping into any second now, after a little bit of exploration. Here we are. So here's a map room. They're all represented by monoliths. The rear view mirror shows the actual location, so it gives the player a sense of sort of location really, and sort of a familiarity, so they know where they're going. Players chosen this particular temple, and this is one of the first sort of levels, which is like a classic Doom or Quake type environment, where this is the game as you'd expect it to be in the sort of final episodes. So it's sort of a bit quiet, and then the hellfish spiders start coming out, and again they're chasing you, they're following you, but they communicate to each other, so sometimes they'll all get scared and run off. They're quite unpredictable really, which is kind of what I wanted from them. So I wanted them to be sort of not too easy to fight really. Other weapons we've got are a sort of missile launcher, which kind of locks onto multiple targets and then sort of fires all these missiles around. What's great about that is you can fire them on forwards and backwards at the same time, so you can kind of spin around and lock onto all these enemies and just fire and forget, which is cool. There's the rocket launcher, which again is used for taking out armored things like there'll be a lot of armored objects in the game, and you can shoot a rocket at them to take off the arm and then switch to other weapons to finish it off. There's a plasma rifle, which is what I'm working on at the moment, which can power up certain doors and things. It kind of acts as like a portable power source as well as a weapon. And there's a couple others which I'm going to keep under wraps for now because they are surprises. Here's a little kind of not quite secret area, but certainly an area tucked away, which sort of has a nest of these creatures. They tend to guard these eggs, which are in the game are called hell eggs because everything's got to have hell in front of it. Some explosives there. There's red barrels that can be shot and explode because you've got to have that in any first-person shooter, otherwise it's a crime against the industry. Some health in there, so it's not in yet, but in the final game these eggs will actually hatch into baby versions of the hellfish, which I think will be quite interesting. They'll look slightly translucent as well. I put in some like random pottery just because it felt right for that kind of environment, and it's just fun to shoot things and have them react to you. Let me go through here. It's a shotgun power up. There's a locked door. And also a cable, which might suggest where the key is. I like putting in those kind of simple signaling techniques just to make sure no one gets lost, because it is easy to get lost sometimes in this game because of the palette. Things can be a little bit hard to define where they are, which is why you need sort of unique elements which give a sense of direction, which has been an ongoing challenge for the final game actually, to make sure that players have a sense of direction and orientation. Player's got the key. I'm going to follow that cable back round after having a look around down here. And that purple thing's a shard. When you get 6 of those shards, they form into a soul cube, which again is the ultimate goal to find in each level. So there's a few soul cubes in each level. Some of them will be hidden behind challenges, some of them will just be hidden in secret areas, and there'll always be one at the end of a level as well. So here's a little battle scene in this room. I quite like this room. It's a weird thing to say, but I like the layout of it because it's simple, but it also sets something up for the player later on, which I'll come back to when that happens. But again, just these little nests with their fish, hellfish, sorry, guarding them, and this big plasma thrower. There's a few variants of the plasma throwers, ones with like various shields and things. They all kind of are designed to make the player sort of react in a certain way. So that one without a shield means the player can hand back, but later on we'll see one with a globe shield, which means the player's got to get quite close to the plasma shield, to the plasma thrower, to make sure that its bullets aren't reflected by the shield. It's actually inside the shield, shooting the plasma thrower itself. Note these crystals, they're blocking another shard, which is interesting. I wonder how we get past those. Lots of verticality in the levels as well. Something I've tried to get in every level where appropriate. Yeah. It's great how the spiders just kind of, their legs just match the terrain and then going up. Like they are creepy to watch, and they make me jump when I play it, and I know where most of them are. Here's a example of a hidden jump pad that you can only see in the rearview mirror, but you can't see in the main view. It definitely adds something. I'm always thinking of ways to use it as well. It's not just like you can just see behind you. There's a scene where you've got to open like you've got a door crank, and you've got to face it as you are opening this door, but enemies are still attacking you from behind, so you can actually still fire behind you as you're operating this sort of door mechanism, which is kind of interesting. More pottery. Got to destroy all the ceramics in Hellscreen. Another jump pad hidden by red crystals with an ominous white door. That's interesting. So that's a nice little scene. It's just barrels. The spiders can't get out, but the barrels trap them, and you shoot the barrels and they blow up. And it's just a fun little breather, like a little toy. I like to think of certain encounters in the game as being a series of small toys that the player can just sort of like have a little fun with. Here we go. The red crystals only being able to be destroyed by a double barrel shotgun. just letting the player experiment, making it really obvious that that's the way out, sort of thing as well. Here's another little battle arena. Door is locked up there. So there's probably a key here, and that beam of light is something I like to do with a lot of things which you can pick up because it just makes them readable from a distance. So now you've got the key. You can make your way up. There's a rearview mirror showing that the door's been unlocked now. But wait, enemies spawn in. Have a little battle. I did some spiderweb planes in this area, and then the spiders can go over them, but you can't. So it just gives them a little bit more flexibility as to where they can go, which is interesting. It means the player has to sort of think a little bit more about where they're going and where the spiders are going. Sometimes the spiders will just stop out of fright, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes they're more scared of you than you are of them. Yeah, jump on this platform. Plasma throw up there. Well, I'm not very good at the game, so sometimes I miss jumps entirely. Probably noticed the white crystals, which are more like ice, they just can't be shot by anything. I thought it'd be nice to have some variation in the crystals and mix it up. But maybe there's a weapon that can destroy them later on. Who knows? So now into this room. And we're back into the one of the rooms that we were in earlier, my favourite room in the level. And I've placed enemies here, so when the player eventually brings out the double barrel shotgun, maybe they'll accidentally shoot something which might point away to a new area. There we go. So accidentally shot the glass behind. Oh wait, there's a new area. That's interesting. I wonder what's here. Spiders are relentless sometimes. Sometimes they will just charge you down and follow you everywhere as much as they can, which again makes them quite scary because you're never quite sure when they're going to turn up. Certainly in the game, even when testing, they come out of nowhere and catch me off guard, and sometimes I even scream a little, which is a bit embarrassing. So now if we jump down here, we're actually back at that level, except I missed it. Now I've died. But it's alright, because it's a fairly quick reload and we're back at the start. You've still got all your gear, you've still got all the keys, and all the enemies you've killed are still dead. It's just a minor punishment. And actually, I think this might make it an interesting game for speedrunners, because I think there'll be certain strategies where it makes more sense to die and start at the beginning and make your way through to get through the level quickest. Again, I don't want this to be a game to be too punishing for people that are new to the genre. So we've used that jump that was encased in the red crystals to get back up to the ominous door, and we've gone through it. And up these stairs is another soul cube. And that would be one of the soul cubes you can get in the level. Like I said before, that's the one you'd get at the end of the level, but there'll be a couple of hidden ones. There'll be ones hidden behind level-specific challenges. There's the one that you get for collecting all the shards. And each level will have at least 4 or 5 of them, which means there's reasons to go between all the levels. So here we are. This is actually a reason to go back to a level. Now the player's got the level shut down, they can go in here, get that shard, and get that soul cube. So there's back and forth between each level, really, and there's reasons to go back to find things or time trials and that kind of thing. The story, they are yanked at the point of their death into the Hellscreen, which is a kind of a extra dimensional place. And the Hellscreen itself is a computer created by ancient gods to determine who goes to heaven and who goes to hell. And the reason why they created it is because that was actually their job, but they got sick of existence and they just wanted to stop living. So they created the machine to do its job for them. But the machine's malfunctioning. So whilst the player, at the point of their death in their normal life, was supposed to go to heaven, or whatever version of that, and instead they got brought to the Hellscreen machine, which is kind of like a limbo almost. So it's about the player basically on a quest to kind of destroy the machine, because once it's destroyed, it will kind of reset and actually sort of put things back to normal. So here we are in the canyon level, as I like to call it. This is the final level in the demo that you can unlock. And we introduce a new enemy called the Blood Charger, and these are like armoured squids that charge the player very quickly. You'll see them flash red before they do so, but the problem is they'll also knock themselves out, and that's the only way you can really get to their weak spot on the back. And then they're protecting the eggs as well. Here's another invisible enemy, a cloak chomper as I like to call it. But we're not going to kill it because it's a bit too scary. Another shard. Like I say, there's around 6 of them in each level. Some of them are going to be very hard to get, some of them will be quite easy. Some of them you have to wait until you've got access to new areas to get them. Here we go. So there's certain rooms in Hellscreen you can only see through the rear view mirror. They'll be highlighted in that sort of brilliant white, but when you walk in you'll notice that the front screen is actually completely dark, but the rear view mirror is fully lit. So with a little careful manoeuvring you can get through, find secrets and that kind of thing. There we go. Bye bye spider. Again, these kind of rooms promote a slightly slower pace of game, which is kind of interesting, which is useful for giving the player a bit of a breather and just a bit of downtime between all the combat encounters, because too much combat I think can be exhausting for a player. Certainly I've played games where it's just combat and it can be a bit tiring, and I can only play for a certain amount of time, whereas with this I like to think that with the level warping and the different sort of challenges and secret rooms, that actually you can play at a pace that suits you a little bit more, and let the player dictate how fast the game is rather than anything else. So coming to the end of the trailer now. There's something down the corridor, but you have to wait for the full game for that, I'm afraid. So that's Hellscreen. Thanks for watching. I hope you like what you see. Thanks to the London Games Festival for having me and the game on this year's show. I wish this Hellscreen on Steam now. It's out in October, probably. And I hope to see you soon. Cheers.